So, we risk becoming a movement of the connected, of the people of the privileged, I guess. So, I was in reading your book, I was struck by the reference to the movement called the Pussy Riot in Russia. They were well educated, they were internet savvy, they had time to spare to become activists. How do we ensure that we make our movement relatable to the widest number of people?
Back to spectrum of allies by listening. I think the one of the first problems you have as a member of the civil rights organization is that you are living in a very insular society, and then you communicate within this insular society, and rarely you understand what really moves people by getting your boots dirty, by going to the people on the ground, by making small events in rural areas. We learned a lot. We learned about that. We were very passionate about democracy in Serbia and the freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. When you go outside of the big cities and university centers, people were talking the price of gas. So it's like for
Mhm.
them, regime was bad because their life was bad. And humans are very selfish animals. They will normally move or mobilize or invest only if there is something little for themselves. So figuring out what may be affecting these people, and once again back to the dog's poop and Harvey Milk, you wouldn't believe how little these things are, but you also wouldn't believe how ready people are to move if you are the one who is trying to solve these things, because the nature of these small things that mobilizes people is very often ignored by the institutions. So if you are the one who are the first person not ignoring them, that's a very good start of building a personal relationship and potential recruitment. So hear them, don't treat any issue as small. Don't judge people by their motivation to jump in. Some people will jump into groups because the groups are cool. And you don't say, oh, no, 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 you don't share our value for or passion for climate change. It's like, no, 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 these people are welcome because that means you're doing something right.
Thank you. So I'm seeing some great questions in the Q&A. I'm going to start with one that is fairly broad, but I think on everybody's mind. So how do you fight apathy and burnout when trying to revolutionize healthcare, when the people who need to be part of the change are sick and tired and jaded?
Well, you start with those who don't. And this is the Ben Franklin said that in every society, and I would put it down to the community, however small it is, there are three types of people. There are those unmovable, there are those movable, and there are those who move. Your job is to figure out a plan how to identify, incentivize, and recruit those who move. And those who move will be then impacting those who are movable. And you don't care, you don't spend your time obsessing why the big part of the population is unmovable. This is what it is. But you accept this and you start identifying with the people in this world who are affected by healthcare problems, who are already have done something in the past or at least speak out. You start by organizing them in a core group, and then you start thinking what will impact the others rather than some kind of the weird policies which may be central to the NGOs in the issue of healthcare. So I talk a lot with the healthcare groups in US. I don't understand the language. I don't understand the acronyms. I don't understand anything. It's like, and I am considered to be an expert in social movements. So out of this insular world and where the rubber meets hits the road is one big step to make if you're looking into it. And then getting there, not be disappointed that 80% of the people would move their ass for something, but taking a look at these 10 or 20% who would. And then talking to them, figuring out what will make them move and then making a movement around this. So this is like a three-step thing. First one, figuring out that you're living in a outer space. If you understand what I don't even understand what's the difference between the Medicare and Medicaid. I live in US for 5 years. And you need to understand that majority of people are like me. They are not professionals in this field. And basically, at the end of the day, they don't care. They want to get a decent health care for allowable quantity of money. This is what they want. And they don't want to go through the state markets. They need to hire a consultant to explain them which care plan is good for them. Now, starting with these three things, which are the main things that pisses me, and I know 20 people in my environment that are pissed off with the same thing, then you start devising a plan. Okay, who is responsible for this? And then people come in with the long stories of, yeah, Congress, Senate, administration, lobbyists, blah, 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 insurance company. No, no. Who is responsible for this in Colorado Springs, where I live? You start with something you can touch. You don't start with trying to explain people a larger concepts of how to change the world. You start with a relationship with something that they want to change and the institution that can deliver them some progress on this. And this is where it becomes real. This is where it becomes the group. This is where it becomes a campaign. This is where it becomes action. You make something very blurry, very realistic for these people. If we can make city of Colorado Springs give something to the rural area, then we will have a whatever facility in a rural area. So if you can explain how the thing looks, as opposed to looking at all of the blurry things that are surrounding it, and then you say, okay, we are campaigning for a medical facility that will serve people of county XYZ. What it takes to get there, who needs to decide, who is misdelivering. And now you're thinking about the pillars: mayor, local organizations, local hospitals, local representatives in Congress and Senate, and so on and so forth. Now it becomes pillars. Now it becomes realistic. So instead of thinking about big overwhelming thing, you start looking into what really tortures people around you, because this is what they will be moving around. They would be shitting over the big lobby companies that are giving all of our money to the insurance company over the beer, but they don't think they can change it. But what is the thing that they think that they can change? And this is where you're really looking at.
I think what you're describing is the dog poop question, or the other analogy that you used in the book was the story about Gandhi and finding your salt. And we really, that is our theory of change through the patient revolution, which is we think that people can take advantage of their own spheres of influence in their own local communities with their own constituents and future allies. And you describe something that happens in a geography, Colorado Springs, pick your municipality. How can thousands of those, what we call mini revolutions, lead up to a singularly impactful movement like the civil rights movement was made up of a whole bunch of different smaller actions that all led up into one unified vision? Is that the magic? And how do we avoid being so diffused and so diverse in our actions that we lose the impact of the collective?
It's $1 million question, and there is no singular answer to it. The answer is yes, it can. But how it becomes a structural movement depends on only one thing. Are you able to formulate tangible things that then become your demands? And this is where a lot of movements lose it. Many movements are able to build numbers. Occupy Wall Street was one of them. And then you sit with them and you ask them, what is your strategy? And they say, oh, it's such a corporate word. I say, no, no, you are Americans. You don't understand. The word is Greek and it's there for 3,000 years and it has nothing to do with the capitalism or corporation. So what is your tangible goal? You say, we are 99%, there is 1%, there is this greedy capitalism that is making banks expelling the people. It's like, okay, wait, banks. Is this something that we can do? Can we make a people power movement that will have more control over the banks? If we do, that becomes our target. But if this is our target, you don't sit in Sukoti Park. You walk in Wells Fargo. So it's like you need to define what you want to do in order to define your path. You need to know where you are going before you hit the route to the airport. This is not how you travel. You travel by designing by knowing the fact that I need to be in Nashville next weekend, then taking a look at the airplane tickets, then taking a look at the accommodation in Nashville, and only then sitting in the car and parking them at the Colorado Springs airport. You're not driving in different directions to figure out, oh, what flies? There's like 50 different directions from that airport. So speaking about what you asked, movements need to figure out that if you have an overarching organization that looks into the rights of patients or whatever you guys are looking at, then you need to make it local by the question to the people on the local level in the real community, because the movements are happening in the real communities. What is your, it's called in military strategy, it's called the goose egg. So what do you want to conquer? What is your goose egg? How will this thing look in Colorado Springs? And then you give them freedom to organize about their own things, and then the million flowers are blossoming and contributing to the goal. You need to figure out what are the 2 or 3 things you want to achieve as a movement first, and then localize it, then decentralize it, then make people be creative on the ground with their own actions and strategies. The reason why Outpour was successful was that we have a very centralized idea of what we want to achieve. The theory of change is that we want freedoms, peace with neighbors, road to the EU. That's, however, not applicable in a village. So instead of thinking how this is applicable in a village, we say, okay, we have one big obstacle in this. We have a dictatorial regime which steals elections. So our theory of change will be, in order to achieve this, we need to remove Milosevic first. Milosevic was not the goose egg of our strategy. He was the obstacle in our strategy. And how we remove the obstacle? Oh, elections. Oh, he will steal elections. Great. We will make 80% of the people to vote. So whatever he can steal will be overrun by numbers. Oh, he will forge the election results. 30,000 election monitors. We report on it, and then this becomes the mobilization point. Oh, he will use police and military against the protests. Well, great. This is why we are going to make a general strike. So people will just stay off work. So there will be nobody to be beaten and arrested. And eventually you create the strategy and it becomes real for the people. And now the goal of the people in the local place is to mobilize, organize, recruit election monitors, increase the turnout, and get on the street if the elections are stolen. And once elections are stolen, their job is to put everybody in that locality into general strike. So this is where it becomes real for somebody who lives in a 50,000 city. They have the wider goals, but instead of debating endlessly around the wider goals, they have their own piece of plan. And their own piece of plan is executed where they live, within their community. This is where they know people far better than you know people. So making this thing tangible on the ground is the challenge. But in order to do this, you need to figure out what you want first.
So building on that, we are a global organization. Have you ever seen or helped an organization become successful with a movement on a global scale? When healthcare, we have many of the questions in the Q&A are about U.S. healthcare, but we also have many people on the call from many other countries. How do we create that coalition?
I was working with transnational movements, never in care, but in the field of something that I know far more than I know about the healthcare, being a
Mhm.
graduated biologist. We worked with Extinction Rebellion. We worked with Fridays for Future, and they had exactly the same challenge. And one of the interesting models we developed is that there is the place where rubber hits the road. There is a big environmentally disastrous project happening in Philippines or in Colombia or in Brazil or in Nigeria, and there are people mobilized around this there, and their tactics is block the road, write a petition, like confrontation between them and the big companies. But because you have an international movement, you have another leverage, which is understanding that people in UK can target the largest single investor into this company. So map the battlefield, understanding that dam in Nigeria will never become reality if you block the bank in England. And this is where, like, from since the anti-apartheid movement, this multiple mapping and targeting is very important. And we actually help them. There is a campaign called Clear Standard Chattered, and this is a campaign related to five disastrous environmental projects in global south, all funded by one big investment fund based in UK, all leading to the actions in the impacted countries, and eventually leading to persuading then very famous champion of Europe soccer club called Liverpool through their fans to remove Standard Chattered from their jerseys. So you impact things in Colombia by talking to the soccer club in Liverpool. This is exactly what you are asking. It's like how you leverage the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you have different people in different places, but they're fighting the same battle. You figure out how these things are connected because these things are connected through money and capital
Mm-hmm.
and companies. And in
Mm-hmm.
the era of AI, like if I tell my agent, map me who is funding this, who is funding this, who's blah, blah, blah. It will take me 10 minutes to figure out how shit happening in one place is connected to somebody else earning money on another place. And this is the beginning of my map. And then I start talking to my groups, and then I coordinate these groups, and then each one takes their own part of the impact or targeting, if this makes sense. So the answer is yes,
That's
you can
great.
do it. Never done it in healthcare, but have done it practically with the people who executed it and was successful.
That's
By the way,
great
these
insight.
people were
Thank you.
half my age. Like the oldest person that I worked in Fridays for Future was 23.
So, well, I guess I'm out because I'm too old for that.
Welcome to the club.
There's a, yeah. You talked early on, you did a pros and cons of using a trigger event to launch a movement or to galvanize people. And certainly, I certainly understand from your writings and other readings about trigger events and their power. We've had several of late in the United States, in particular, that galvanize people around the world. George Floyd is an example. Here in Minnesota, the invasion of the ICE Operation Metro Surge, etc. And then there was the unfortunate murder of the United Health Group executive, which certainly galvanized people who were really disgruntled in the United States, in particular, people who were incredibly disgruntled with the healthcare industry. All of those led to some pretty dramatic action and words and exchanges. But now, just living here in Minnesota, it's gone dark. And so trigger events seem to be really powerful tools. But what should we do after? How do we take advantage of a trigger event I don't mean to say that in a perverse sort of way, but how do you take advantage of a trigger event to create sustainable action and engagement?
I will answer this question in 3 minutes and then disappear because I have a hard
Okay.
stop in 5 minutes.
Well,
So the basically the answer is yes, you are very right, and the very nature of people is to get steamed on and steam off around horrendous video where police is choking George Floyd to death. And you can utilize these type of events. You can also predict them. If the event is school shooting, you can bet there will be another school shooting in 2 weeks. The thing is how you mobilize people around this and how you not make it a one-off thing. The answer is you look at the pattern and you try to see what went well and what didn't went well in previous movements organized around this events, and then you can take a look at the George Floyd and say, okay, the spread was great, viral video was great, the hashtag was great, giving local people a chance to mobilize and organize was great. Turning it into the nationwide debate about the systemic racism was great. America definitely, in my opinion, needs it. What was not great? Who organized it? What was the demand? What was the goal? Was it turned into some kind of policy? No, they just took the loudest slogan on these protests and turn it into the most divisive demand, which eventually died even in a city of George Floyd, Minneapolis, defund the police. Is defunding the police somehow the solution for the systemic racism? How these two communicate? So, if you take a look at it, you immediately understand what was good, what was bad. So you study from the past, you learn from the past mistakes, and next time you do it better. Because there will be triggers like this. They happen all the time, unfortunately. The question is, do you have people ready to understand that when the school shooting happens, your first question wouldn't be a debate about whether we need more or less gun rights, Third Amendment, whatsoever. The question is, who sold that gun? And why the heck we don't have any kind of control over whom the guns are sold? And then going to the ChatGPT and figuring out that 83% of guns in US are sold by big chains, guys like Walmart and Dick's Sporting Goods and Bass Pro Shops, and understanding that these companies, unlike politicians, they are susceptible to loss of profit. And if you threaten them with boycott, which happened in Parkland, Florida, then they will put the background checks. And you are solving 83% of the problem with that pillar, as opposed to going on vigil, lighting candles, sending two foods and prayers, and then after 72 hours dying in a debate whether we need more gun control or the schools will be safer if we arm teachers. The question is, do you learn from triggers? The question is not, oh, there will be triggers. There will be triggers. Unfortunately, there will be triggers. The question is, do you prepare people for these events? Is there a strategy as a response to these events? And can you leverage this through the training, learning, preparation? This makes movements, if this makes sense. And I'll say goodbye.
Well,
No.
so I know you have to go, but please let me say on behalf of the global movement for careful and kind care, the patient revolution, we are incredibly grateful to have you with us today and to share your wisdom. Thank you very much, Srdja. We hope to be in touch again. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
And